Oh man, what is going on? Happy Friday, people. You are back with another episode of Educated and Dope. I am with my man, my guy, the homie Curtis. Valentine, I've been having such an amazing time doing this with him and building this with him. We got Mimi Dubs in the back doing the board or whatnot. Curtis, how you doing today, fam?
I'm good, man. It's Friday. This week went by, relatively quickly. But weekend, got a bunch of stuff scheduled for the weekend. School's back in session for the first time.
Okay.
Here in the community. So man, I'm excited, man. The weather's switching up too, though. I mean, it's getting a little warmer. And so I'm one of those folks like to get outside, fresh air. And yourself, man, how you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. It's been a week, brother. I don't know. I wouldn't say mine went really fast. I have so much work to do, but it's all good, man. I kind of enjoy doing my work, so hopefully I'll catch into a groove and and kind of kill it with that, man. And then I have been really excited about this episode, and then my A Black Hand show on Sunday. Both of those episodes have me really, really excited. So on this one, we are talking about the now, the work, the receipts. And we did a quick little IG live last night, courtesy of Curtis. Write that down. That's gonna be your next show that we're gonna produce for you, brother. Courtesy of Curtis. Note that point, Mimi Dubs. But we were just talking about what is a receipt? What do we mean by that? And so I'm really, really excited about it. And when we say receipts, let's just so people know what we're talking about in level setting. What do you mean? I'll say what I mean when I'm talking about the receipts.
Well, in a word, it's evidence. I mean, it's what the work you've put in for our people. And I kind of get specific, but I also think about work you put in for our people to build institutions. Institutions, whether it be educational, in media, in business. But I think we kind of talked about this yesterday. To me, there are some bad receipts. There's some folks right now who look like us, who are doing things that, I think they think they're proud of, but are literally running in contrast to what we're doing. I was listening. So I listen to battle rap, man. So I'm a big Loaded Lux fan, and he freestyled on Footmaster Flex, man. And one of his freestyle, he said, one of his lines was, man, he said, "I don't want to hear this unity, fool." He said, "The brothers who stole Harlem, who sold Harlem, thought they were helping the community too." And he's saying the brothers who gentrified Harlem, they thought they were helping the community when they sold it away. And their brothers around the country, sisters around the country who are doing things, they getting likes, they getting, and they put, these are my receipts, but I'm checking them. I'm at the door with not literally, but I'm always like, yo, whatever you're doing, is that moving us in a direction of independence, self-sufficiency, and liberation? Or is it, moving in contrast to that? Because nothing worse than working and, having somebody working against what you're trying to do. So, yeah, man, some people may not agree with that, but that's just how I feel.
Okay. Well, no, I ain't mad. Listen, man, your definition of receipts is yours. I ain't mad at it. When I say that, I just like, how are we showing that there's actual progress happening, that you actually helping your people, right? So it's akin to a rapper having 3 million followers on Instagram and on Twitter, and then they album drop and they can't sell 10,000 copies, right? It's like, oh, it feels like you got, all this support and that you're doing stuff. It's a lot of posturing, but it ain't really people like engaging and interacting in that way. So, again, people might at this point see me do a lot of shows and a lot of talks, but these talks are only fueled by the actual work that I do, that the work that's being done. You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't prepare in the same way, right? I'm like regurgitating and remembering, okay, this is what this was. This is what I learned from that. Let me go and kind of share that piece. So when I talk about receipts, yo, how many people have you helped? How many people are eating because of you? How many people are more educated because of you? How many people's lives are better because you exist? And like you said, receipts can't go both ways. I have destroyed and I have built, you know what I'm saying? I didn't sell drugs and nothing like that, but we don't always get everything right. You know what I'm saying? Like there's some people that love you and there's some people that don't like you too much. That's just life. That's just is what it is. And hopefully when it's the end for me, I hope that good outweighs the bad. And speaking of that, man, we'd be remiss if we did not say RIP to Earl Simmons, aka DMX. He passed away earlier today. He had a heart attack and he was not getting brain activity, and he was on a machine, and it seems as if they had turned that machine off. So DMX was somebody who was very influential in my life. It's Dark and Hell is Hot and the Slim Shady LP. When I was in high school, those two albums, especially for a journeyman like me who have been to so many schools and so many neighborhoods and so many people, I love those albums. So, you know, before we hop in, I just wanted to make sure that this show honored that brother's legend.
Yeah, I mean, I think DMX, for a lot of folks who came to his work, man, he was a poet, man. And, you know, he has, you know, this poem about his grandmother. And I mean, you talk about passion, about laying it all out. I mean, like when he finished, you thinking this brother didn't take a nap because he just put his whole body into it. And you see the outpouring right now on social media. People get emotional. I mean, like you said, some entertainers have a sort of a cursory influence on the culture. And when they're gone, they're gone. But, you know, everyone has that DMX moment or that song you put on when you're ready to kind of, when you work out or get motivated or get spiritual. He was that brother, man. And again, you know, his legacy will live on forever.
Yeah, man. So RIP to him, and prayers up to his family. And Mimi Dubs, boss, what we got? So here's the first one. You want to take the first crack at this one, brother? How are narratives and images of Black America created and perpetuated now?
Well, right now, I mean, I think, you know, oftentimes I ask people, you know, how do you get your information? And 95% of folks are going to say it's through social media. But we talk about, you know, social media is a democracy in a lot of ways. You can't control who you follow, who you friend. You have the power to cut people off. You have the power to bring people in. And so this idea of narratives and images in Black America, it's to me, it's who we let in and who we decide to follow. And this kind of gets back to our conversation. I mean, what we're talking about now about receipts. And we have to sort of be, you know, very, very particular about who we elevate. And who, I mean, and when you say elevate, it could be who you share, who you set as a model, but also in many ways where you spend your dollars, because the brands you buy, you wear, you know, there's the places you shop, you know, whether it's Black-owned business, a community-based business, a community that reinvests in your community, a business that invests in your community, all those things have ripple effects, because those communities, those institutions, those individuals who we do not support often have to make shifts or eventually go out of business. And it's hard for those images of men and women doing amazing work in the community to stand because they're not being supported by the community itself. And so I think of narratives and the work I'm doing, particularly with Real Men Teach, is saying, you know, we are a business that's saying, you know, our brands are our people. You know, we don't have a lot of celebrity endorsements and things like that, but it's saying my homeboy got it and I know what he stands for. And I know the receipts because I know him personally. Oftentimes there's a disconnect between individuals and what you know they're doing in the community, but it's a grassroots movement. Images, again, you know, you can talk about television, you can talk about music, you can talk about commercials, but a lot of ways, again, those images are going to come through social media. It's who you follow on Instagram, you know, who your Facebook friends are, you know, who you follow on Twitter, what you retweet, what you put in front of your eyes. Right. Because your diet is not only what you put in your body, it's what you put in your mind.
I think that's good, man. And Mimi, can I get the question back up there just real quick? I want to just make sure I cover it. When you talk about the narratives and images of Black America and how they perpetuate, I think that marketers have figured out that Black people are the ultimate marketing geniuses, right? And I think that they have manipulated us into thinking that the products that we build are worth less, and then they usurp it and make millions off of it and billions off of it. Let me give you an example, right? There are like big lips. I used to get made fun of because of my lips. Now it's little white girls all over the country, right, that are going and getting them things filled up or whatnot, or the way that Black girls might do their hair, right, with boxer braids or whatever the case is. And they don't necessarily get recognized for it, but other people do, and they market it and they copy it. I think that as Black folks' tastes go, I think that so does pop culture goes, which I think is really interesting. I then think that they try to interject a bit of that Blackness and try to ratchet it up a little bit. And then that becomes what the image of Black people are, right? So again, there's a bunch of different amazing talk shows and great shows and all that stuff. That's my guy, David. But they don't get the same love and publicity as Bad Girls of blah, 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 or Housewives of this, right? And the way that you blow up on a Housewives show is you got to be at the table and you got to throw a glass across the table at the other girl. You got to yell and do a whole bunch of stuff. I've met young people that aspired to be on, you know, Atlanta Housewives, Bad Girls Club, and things like that. And it's like, yo, like, and I think that those things do so well because they do perpetuate a certain narrative about us. And I think, listen, man, I don't believe in nothing being sugar-coated or holier than thou or any of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? I think as people, we get to be full-fledged individuals. I am somebody who loves to read and learn. And I also love DMX, 50 Cent, and Jay-Z albums. You know what I'm saying? Like, and there's a whole bunch of stuff. You feel me? So I just, so when we talk about how these narratives and images in Black are created and perpetuated, I think that there is a lot of money behind it. And then when you find a way to the bag in that space, you feel me? Then it's like, oh, all right, well, now we just now all in this groove together. And then you got to ask yourself, why do white folks own rap? You feel me? It's like, and not like, I'm not mad about white people rapping. Do your thing. I love rap music. I'm talking about who owns it. Who is the people that like are saying, I'm gonna bottle up your voice and sell it. You know what I'm saying? And like, I think it goes back to what we talked about last week, Curtis. And I'm gonna end my thought here. We always kind of believe in the back of our head that white ice is colder, and you know, we don't really put enough stock in what we can do on our own and with each other.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, man, these images of us are ones that in some ways were co-opted. You know, you think about hip hop and other things like that, something that we created. I just want to make sure that brothers like you and I who are starting our own brands are awful careful about folks trying to approach us, because really very, very, very careful. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Let me see. I guess I can start on this one. The impact that my work has on Black community. So for me, man, again, I've worked in a lot of places. I started my career as a social worker, which I loved, and I'm so blessed to have been able to do. I loved working in my community as a social worker, and part of the reason that I went that route and stayed as a social worker for 5 years, because when I was younger, the social workers I dealt with were white folks, and didn't really understand my family and that structure and what was happening. And you know, I don't know how involved or engaged they necessarily were, but I wanted to be different, and I wanted to be hopeful to like our families. But so all my work, I have been somebody who has seen how systems work firsthand. Like I remember as a social worker, I would see things and be like, oh, X, Y, and Z are going to happen. And I remember talking to my supervisor, like, wait, and is this something we can do around that? Like, you know what I'm saying? And what I then learned is like, my job is to be an infiltrator and to give people the cheat codes, man. Give people the navigation. Like, what is it? So again, even as a social worker, I've always been very direct and transparent with the people I work with. So I would show my parents and families, here's your reunification plan. Here's the things that we're going to be looking for. Here's the notes. Here's exactly what I wrote that I'm handing in. Tell me how you feel about it. And if you want me to have to write something different, we got to do something different. And I think the same is true in education. I've always been the person, even when I worked at the district with the superintendent, here's what the data says about your kids. Here's a like school with the same type of kids, that make the same type of money, and here's how they operating, and here's what the state standard is, and here's all this stuff, and just give people that information, and people like, why would you do that or whatever? It's competition. I'm not giving to you as competition.
Why are you doing that?
When you go buy a house, there's this thing called comps. They say, oh, this is the house. Can I see comps in the area? And what that means is this is how we're going to level set on what quality is and if I'm paying the right amount for this home. Now, because they don't teach you how to like shop for homes in school, right? I think some people might be hearing this for the first time. Like, what's a comp? What's that? I think there should be comps in all parts of life where you sending your kids, you sending your mama, you sending your people. It got to do with your money. It got to do with your health and your well-being. Black people, start asking for the comps. So, you know, so that's what I do. My impact on Black people in my communities is I want you to understand the comps, and I want you to know that you deserve better than what you're getting. I don't care what you've done. you know, the stuff with the DMX thing hit me. I think I talked about it last time. Like I grew up in NA and AA meetings. You know what I'm saying? I went with my mom and my dad didn't go as much, but he got clean too. But, you know, and I think that for me, man, those communities mean a lot to me. Because I don't think anybody's broken beyond reproach. I don't think anybody is broken, not reproach. I don't think anybody is broken beyond repair. And so in my community, the biggest thing I try to do, aside from giving out money, aside from getting hundreds of kids in and through college, aside from making sure people know where to go and get support and help, is really showing Black people that you deserve better and it's okay to ask for better. It's okay that if you bought that steak and you wanted a medium rare and they gave it to you well done, to send that shit back. And so I think that's my contribution. What about yours, brother?
Well, I mean, I think my career has been sort of the nexus between, like, again, just conversation around narrative building, but also institution building. Mm-hmm. I mentioned this a little bit last night on our IG. For those who don't watch it, you know, Thursday nights we try to do like a pre-IG live conversation, which is what are the images and what are the, you know, the information sources for Black culture, Black education, Black Black images in this country. And for a very long time, it was Black newspapers. And for those who don't know, again, sort of a newsflash, they still exist in your community, whether you're in Washington, D.C. or Oakland or Atlanta or Newark, New Jersey. And so I was really proud about, you know, really building a partnership with the National Newspaper Publishers Association, which is run by a distant cousin, brother Chavis. And so brother Ben Chavis, and the idea that how do we profile and put out positive images, particularly of African Americans who are starting their own schools. And so understanding that, you know, I'm not chasing newspapers that don't really cater to our community or the average, you know, person can't find. I'm looking for the people at the barbershop and the beauty salon to say, hey, here's what's possible. Mm-hmm. And so images like that, you know, similar, you know, I started one of the first community college to HBCU pipelines through my institution, Morehouse College. Really saying, you know what, I started with a great brother of man, Brian Heath Hamlin, in his program. And one of the things that Brian talks about is the idea of like stereotype killers. We got to be stereotype killers. It's sort of like, you know what, you all think this is what we are. We're going to shift the whole culture and really just tell you, you know, what's possible. And so this idea of how do we get community college students into a school like Morehouse? You know, I'm gonna lie to you, bro. I got pushback from people who look just like me. But you know, the last few years, we've been getting to see the fruit of our labor. To the point where the valedictorian of last year's class was one of the brothers who came through our program. Before him, we had a brother who was Phi Beta Kappa. And so, you know, how we expose brothers brothers and sisters to what's possible is going to shift narratives, but also have us to really build institutions. When I started Real Men Teach, you know, only 4 months ago, may seem like a while. You know, people were saying, hey, man, Curtis, what's the lesson you take away from this? Is it about teaching? Is it about sort of men coming together? I said, nah. I said, for me, the lesson is start something. You know, I started a lot of programs, you know, whether it be through what I mentioned before or helping to start schools around the country. Or right now, I started, created a curriculum for the first education policy course at the University of Maryland, College Park, where I teach now, the first one ever. It's about starting something. And so whether it's in education, whether you care about, the things that you and I care about, I want you to think that, anything is possible if you put your mind to it, because we all have these opportunities to build, receipts or evidence or whatever you want to call it. But it all starts with you moving in the direction of whatever that thing you care about. Because starting something is how we get to freedom and liberation.
And let me even jump in on that, man. And, and Mimi, when you need to move us on, just move us on. That's our boss. You know what I'm saying? We listen to El Jefe. I think, just to even be more specific, right? Like, I loved what you just said, Curtis, and building something and creating something. I think the other part is a lot of our people are going to be pioneers. Like we still in a time where everybody that is going to hear about the first Black something. We still having the first Black somethings, right? So when I got to college, man, I was the first in my immediate family. And so, I'm going to just be all the way real with y'all, right? I have a ton of student debt, a ton. And the reason is because I was like, you know what? I'm going to college. I don't know how. I got to make it work. And I just didn't know and understand how to really do that. You know what I'm saying? And so I got a bunch of loans, but now I have experience around that stuff to where it's like, yo, there's a way for you to go to college, and there's a way for you not to have to take as many loans as Charles did. And this is how you do it. But this is how, really making things very, very practical for people. And I think that that's one of the best gifts we got is like, if you've done it already, you know what I'm saying? You should be able to help somebody else do it. So for instance, I bought my house alone. I didn't think I would ever own a house. I knew I wasn't going to own one in California, right? But because it just costs too much. But even going through that process of like, man, you got to get stuff checked. You got to like check out a whole bunch of stuff, man. It's just a lot of things you got to do. You want to have your own people, not just they people looking at stuff. You know what I'm saying? And like, so one of the biggest things, so there's numbers that we can talk about. I can talk about, like I said, hundreds of kids in and through college, what they college paid for. We can talk about like feeding, like every single Thanksgiving, going out and like buying turkeys and plates and things for people so they can eat. We can talk about putting people on and like hiring Black folks to do work with me and making sure they get paid up front. You know what I mean? Like really changing those practices. But I think a lot of the what I bring and what I try to bring is the practicality of it. And I think there are some people that bring that systemic change and that part around it, right? And I think you need both. I think that if you building a car, somebody got to focus on the windows and somebody got to focus on the wheels. And so there's a role in here that of where you can do stuff. You feel me? So I didn't mean to jump in on there, but I wanted to like double click on that.
No, I mean, and I would have said this. I know we got to move on, but this idea of I used to wear, like I still do, the starfish on my lapel, and this idea of y'all know the story of the starfish brother on the stand on the beach. He's throwing starfish in the water because they washed up on him, and brother's like, man, why are you throwing it in the water? Ain't gonna make a difference. And he picks it up and throws it in the water and says, it makes a difference for that one. And that's sort of the retail, right? We go out and we say, I can line up hundreds of young men whose lives, I've impacted and they've impacted my life. And so I don't want to think it's going one direction or the other. But at the same time, I'm on the school board of the 20th largest school district in the country. And so I'm looking at the graduation rates that's changed since I've been on the school board. I'm looking at the number of male educators who entered our school system since I've been on the school board. How many fathers have gotten more engaged in our school system since I've been on the school board? And that's the idea, because even in that conversation around the starfish, if you think about, like, there are people who are saying, well, there's a reason why all those starfish are on the shore, right? And we can't just forget that. It's cool to go out on the beach and throw the starfish back in the water. It's cool to have the retail, but you also understand, are there policies around the environment, or shipping or whatever was going on? Because there's some reason those starfish are on the shore, and you and I are brothers who, like, we don't wait for the environmental policy to pass to keep the starfish off the shore and say, I'm gonna wait till this policy passes before, and not throw back in. We're throwing them back in, and we're working on making sure they don't come on the shore in the first place. And so I think for those who are trying to get involved, oftentimes they'll say, bro, man, if I can't make the starfish, if I can't affect the policy, then I really don't have a place. We're saying, no. Because you can't help 1,000 doesn't mean you shouldn't help one. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't change the world, I mean, you can't change the life of one person who may eventually change the world. And so I've always been that person of change individuals, but also push up against systems at the same time.
I love it, man. I love it. And I appreciate that answer. And before I answer, if y'all are listening right now and you enjoying this, what we need you to do is we need you to like this and share it with a comment. All right. Let us know when you share it so we can put your face and name up on this screen with us. We depend on you all to help us get this word out. You know what I'm saying? Like, we ain't throwing no glasses across the brunch table and on VH1. You feel me? So we don't have them type of sponsors. So we need y'all to be our sponsors and help us get this out there. But when you ask that question around what have I learned from my work, I learned a few things, man. I learned in my policy work that is noble, but it don't always help the kids it don't always help the people on Monday morning. And what I mean by that is policy work is slow. There's a lot of unintended consequences. There's a lot of ways that the system protects itself, and you have to be aware of that. You should still do that work, but from all my experience, from all my types of jobs, is the reason why I've developed this thing around agentic goals. Like, here's the policy goals, but how do I fill up my people's toolkits right now so they can be at least a little bit better off tomorrow than they were today. I think that that's the biggest piece, man. Like, and for somebody like me where that stuff matters, it's like, yo, I've been a part of a bunch of policy initiatives. Even as a kid, I was at Westlake. I talked about this on Zakia's show. I don't know if you know Zakia. She's super dope. If you don't, I'll introduce you to her. But at Westlake Junior High School, which is now Westlake Middle School in Oakland, I was a part of the test group for Ebonics. Remember that thing that was all over the news and Saturday Night Live had sketches and stuff? I was a part of one of those pilot programs, you know what I'm saying? And eventually it went away because of the bad press. And they just didn't really do a good job of talking about it. Now it's they don't call it Ebonics, they call it AAVE, or African American Vernacular English. But being a part of that and being pulled out of class to kind of see how that goes and talk about it or whatever the case is, you know, there's a lot of kids that got left in the dust behind on that stuff. You know what I'm saying? That didn't reap the benefits that could have came with that. And nobody actually went above and beyond to make sure that there was something that we were reaping, you know? So usually when I do work as best I can, like when I do these reports, I try to make sure that there's money in the budget directly going to these young people, directly going to whoever's speaking, directly, you know what I'm saying? Like, understanding that people need bread is really important. The other thing that I learned, and this is what led to the People's Literacy Fund, and I think I've talked about this before, the People's Literacy Fund is something that I started with Educate 78 and my organization, Energy Converters. And what it was for us to look at philanthropy. And I know we'll talk about philanthropy more later, but this kind of fits in what I learned too. And I wanted to just do it differently. I know how much time I spend doing grant reports. I know how much time I spend like talking about the work instead of doing it. So the pitch was, and you got to be bold with this because it was a risk, and shout out to Ed 78 for rocking with me on this. But the pitch was, instead of taxing individual people for these long reports and all that stuff or giving it to organizations, we wanted to give money directly to the community and look at them as a portfolio. So they don't have big reports. Whatever they succeed at, we just gonna count it all as a collective, but we'll still be able to help these people and get money directly into their hands to do their work around literacy. And this came from being homeless, and this came from being surrounded by Black Panthers and that mythology and just that history of like, give people the opportunity to do for self, and you will be surprised. You will be surprised at what people trying to survive will do and how they can build stuff if they just had a little bit of help. So I learned to I've seen so much failure. Like, I've seen all these people with fancy names and titles and fancy suits. I've seen them fail and be okay and like take more risk. So what I learned is like, bet on my own people, and it's okay if we fail, because failure is a part of winning. You fail way more in life than you win. If you have won more in life than you failed, then I would venture to say you probably have a really boring life if you have not gotten close to meeting your potential. So that's the biggest thing that I learned that makes a difference. It's like, give your people room to operate, to fail, to learn, and to move forward, and to be okay on Monday morning. That's my learning.
No, I mean, my learning, you know, is not dissimilar from yours. I mean, but the one thing I often say is, you know, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. And for me, like, I don't ask. The thing is, people like you and I, people who are successful, they don't go around asking for permission. You know, can we do this? Do you think this is okay? Or will you approve of this? And most of the things in my life have been, you know, my success has been in spaces where I did not ask for permission. You know, I just started doing it, and I may have had to ask for forgiveness later on. In some cases, I didn't have to at all, because it just succeeded so much that people were kind of waiting. Maybe they waited for it to fail, and maybe waiting for me to fall on my face. But when you listen to the people, anything is possible, man. You know, when I first finished graduate school and I came back to the Maryland area, I got involved in the Obama campaign. You know, it was early on, and you know, came into the community in Prince George's County where I live, and eventually, you know, ran. Be very unconventional. Don't ask questions. You know, until you get a phone call, knock on the door, you just keep it moving. And I've sort of, you know, moved in that space. Since then, I learned that initially, I would say, when I finished, you know, Morehouse and went out to South Africa, you know, spent time in a village in South Africa and learned, you know, from the original folks. These are post-apartheid, you know, ANC, Mkhonto wa Sizwe veterans, man. And when I dropped off in my community in South Africa, I was like, all right, so what's my agenda? They were like, you and the people. and you take your agency, and you work with the people and see what comes out of it. Started a boxing club.
I mean, talk about that, bro. You can't just skip past moving to South Africa and being around the ANC and all that stuff. And we got a connection there because I'm from Oakland, and Ron Dellums is from Oakland. His daughter was my drama teacher at Emory High School, Piper Dellums. So I heard a lot about like ending apartheid and what that work was. You feel me? So
yeah, man. I mean,
give me those.
I mean, I learned so much about myself and the community. What I tell people now is turn off the faucet, man. And the faucet right now is every influence on your life telling you what you should look like, how you should dress, what's possible. And for 2 years, I turned off the faucet, man. I stopped drinking from the fire hose of life, trying to sort of respond to what I thought people wanted to see from me, and listen to myself, listen to the people, man. And we're talking about a community where literally they use education as a weapon. For those of you who saw the movie Serafina, understanding the Soweto uprisings, it was about education. It was around students being forced to learn Afrikaans, and that was kind of their sort of civil rights movement moment. But it was led by students, and so if you think about the apartheid education, which literally teachers only had to have an 8th grade education, particularly in the homelands, or these sort of homelands where they separated South Africans. And so when I got there, it was really trying to rebuild an education system, and learning from the people about sort of how to come together financially, how to fund a school, how to run a school, who gonna pay for the food, who gonna cook. It was parents cooking. I mean, you literally had parents cooking lunch. You literally had kids, walking to school in groups because there weren't adults around, or adults had gone off to the field to do adult, the farm work. I mean, I learned so much about just the power of education that I think we learned about it generations ago, and I was literally able to go back in time and say, oh, this is how my grandparents went to school. This is how, again, no electricity, no running water. A lot of the students didn't have shoes or books or paper, but it was this fight for education, saying, you know what, this is the key to freedom. And we talk about Reconstruction in America and how much education meant to our great grandparents, but it's all sort of theoretical. I saw it firsthand, and that South African experience, again, not asking for permission. So I went in. I started the first student government association in the region for students, and they ran for elections, and they gave speeches, and they campaigned. These are the kids whose parents for the first generation in the country just didn't even vote. And so these are conversations around HIV and public health that were really hard to have in communities where people were talking public health in a way of like witch doctors, and all other stuff, and a lot of non-traditional ways of looking at healthcare at the time when Africans were dying in the thousands. And I was able to leverage that experience to travel throughout the continent for the better part of my 20s. Went to over 19 countries, from Rwanda to Kenya to Sierra Leone to Zambia, all the way down to Mozambique and Swaziland. I learned so much about my people, about self-determination, about agency, and about, again, not asking for permission, but if you have to, ask for forgiveness, but don't wait on anybody. Let's get it going.
And, as we transition into the next question, I just think that you said something really important. You went back and figured out who you were. You went back and learned about your history. It's hard to heal when you don't know who you are, when you don't know where you come from. I can't go back beyond 3 generations at the moment. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a very heartbreaking revelation. So much of especially cats in the hood, man, like they don't know 5 and 10 and 15 generations back. I've heard you rattle off names into your lineage and stuff like that. And it's just, when you know who you are, you can just rock differently. So, I know she's about to put up, you can go ahead and put up the next question, but just answer real quickly, Curtis, like, what is your suggestion for people that may not be as in touch with their roots as you are and don't have a lot of money? What would you suggest? Because we want people to walk away. Y'all, I've been taking a bunch of notes, so I think this one might be noteworthy. And then you can jump into the next question.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a student of seniors. I mean seniors. I mean the grandparents, the aunties, the uncles. And there's opportunities for us to listen. I mean, there's always a story to tell. We are an oral people. We have an oral tradition, storytellers. And so there are books you can read, and we could share some of those at the end. But I think you have to have a heart to listen to those who come before us and who have stories to tell. I mean, you mentioned, my brother Howard Fuller. I would definitely recommend you all go back and look at some of the video of your conversation with Howard Fuller. Howard Fuller is a griot in the African tradition. He has stories. When I read his book, we have a lot of comedy because my mother-in-law was actually at the Orangeburg massacre at South Carolina State. She was a student at South Carolina State, and that's really what drove him to South Carolina in his work. My family from the South, my mom's from Georgia, my dad's from Virginia. And so for those who may not be, from the South or have a family member they can draw back to, the African-American tradition lives in all of us. And so, our lineage, our stories are not specific to those who just grew up in the South. I got folks who live in Boston who will tell you stories, or New York tell you, or DC tell you stories about overcoming. But I don't go to these folks kind of asking them to tell me, horror stories about, what went wrong. I don't want them to sugarcoat it, but I also want to talk about, what skills, what skills it took for them to get through, get over, and get out. Because that's also, I think incredibly important. I'm not around like watching old movies, just trying to like sort of, sing spirituals, which I love to do as well. But I'm also talking about some of the jewels, and what history taught us and what communities now can learn, which is kind of bring us to our next question. Mimi's going to put up is like, what can communities apply from what history has taught us? So I'm curious what you think, good brother. As far as what learned, what are some of the things that communities can apply from what history has taught us?
I think we got to learn it. I think we have to do a history. I think there should always be, find those griots in your neighborhood, in your community that can tell you about how your people got there, what happened. I think also you have to study history. I think I've heard so many people quote and misquote Brown versus Board that didn't even know that it was an amalgamation. It was a bunch of different court cases that got rolled up, that the end result wasn't exactly what those people were suing for, what they wanted. And even though, I think learning that just because an outcome is advertised does not mean that that's the outcome that people are really gunning for. And, and learn how its history repeats itself. This is why you need to know your history, because it will get repeated. You know what I mean? And I think that is, that's something that communities can apply. I think the other thing that communities can apply is you got to be a community first. And what I mean by that is, as somebody who grew up in Oakland and in Chicago is still segregated. And I'm going to say this, people going to be like, they're going to frown at this or whatever, but let me finish. I don't think that the segregation on the outskirts of Chicago and their suburbs is as bad as people say. And the reason why I say that is there are middle-class Black suburbs in Chicago, like right outside of Chicago, where you see Black families and Black dads with their sons out in the morning. Like, I see it, you know what I'm saying? I see it when I go out and I jog or I take a walk. There is an Italian suburb where like they have retained a lot of their history, and you can go there and you can eat and you can hear those stories or whatever. Don't act up, you know what I'm saying, if you ain't Italian. But like same with Russian, like there are these enclave places that have kind of been these time capsules of history. And if you want super diversity, right, just go into the city of Chicago. It is LA, San Francisco, New York. Like it's a metropolitan universal city. So you will still see everybody and still be there. But there's something around like having that history. In Oakland, the gentrification and the breaking up of the communities has been so devastating and so drastic that it's hard for people to find a communal identity in what is now there. I grew up in North Oakland. I'm from 54th and Gaskill, and it was mostly Black people when I grew up there. These grandparents that own these homes, and then their kids sold them. You know what I'm saying? And I don't blame them for selling them, because they didn't think it was worth nothing. Now think about this, how crazy this is, right? This is why you got to know your history. How do you feel that a coastal city that's 70 degrees all year in beautiful Victorian houses ain't worth nothing? Again, right? Because white ice is colder. And the house that I grew up in was on the market for like $150,000 20 years ago. That house is now worth $900 and something $1,000. So just think if my family knew that and was able to actually put some roots there and like really own that house, even if we moved, they would be millionaires right now. You know what I'm saying? And now you can't even, if you left, it's real hard to get back in there. You know what I'm saying? So I think what communities have to learn is, what does community look like to you? How do you preserve it? How do you keep it? You know what I'm saying? How do you keep those stories, and how do you build new stories? You know, so I think that's the other. And the last thing is, how do you learn to play with the hand that you have? Poker players do not depend on the cards. Okay. There's a reason that the same people win poker tournaments almost every year. There's a reason why I feel like there are like some really like, I love poker, right? But they learn how to play with the cards that they got. So if you grew up in a family and that family is every generation went to college, use that to your advantage. But if you went to a family that didn't have no college, but they was hustling and they made it happen, they was entrepreneurial, use that to your advantage, right? Whatever my situation is, I'm going to find the advantage there, and I'm going to exploit it, and I'm going to use it to do what I need to do. Me living in 4 shelters helped me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it helped me so much. Me living in Chicago, Kentucky, and then Oakland helped me because, oh man, I actually know how to operate and act in different settings. I know how to act in the South. I know how to act in the Midwest. I know how to act here, right? But also, if I only lived in Oakland, that was the only place, then there is a benefit to only being in that space. It's your job as a community and as a person, a part of that community, to figure out the advantages of your hand and play the hell out of it.
Yeah, I mean, no, that's all facts, man. I think the term community is one that has to be redefined for us, not by us. That's what I mean. But I think, you know, what I think history has taught me is that, you know, you can get a lot done if you don't care who gets the credit. And I say this a lot. I say, you know, this competition for top billing, for, you know, I didn't get my name, who's sitting in the front row, you know, all that, you know, has not gotten us very far. But when you put the people who are going to benefit most from what you're talking about at the forefront, you know, you're going to get the people will follow behind you. But oftentimes, a lot of these movements get co-opted by, quite frankly, those of us who already kind of are comfortable financially, educationally, but yet, you know, sort of, you know, stifle the voices of the people who are going to benefit the most. And it's something that, you know, no knock on King and that movement, but a lot of those brothers, they were in the fraternities, they were HBCU alums at a time when only a handful of folks were even going to college. And then you had Stokely's and others who also was a Howard alum at the same time. But there was this sort of friction of, okay, you know, who's the face of this? Who's really being impacted? Because y'all brothers going back to y'all still, you know, middle class Black communities, y'all kids gonna go to college, you know, even though obviously we have systematic segregation, at the same time, financially, economically, you're a little more comfortable than us. So we want to see the urgency, which they had no problem seeing, obviously putting their life on the line. But oftentimes this idea, this competition for top billing, SNCC versus Core versus SCLC versus Southern Christian, whatever you call it, you know, oftentimes in communities we're seeing that now where there's this competition, and we'll get to this later. I think philanthropy often capitalizes on that. Keep it a buck with you. This idea that people are sort of kind of competing and sort of eating, you know, from the same trough. That competition does us no good. And what I'm really happy about, particularly in this space with brothers like yourself and myself and others who have said, you know, there's all this competition about diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? And it becomes such a catchword, and I think after a while it starts losing its meaning. But every brother I've met through this work with Real Men Teach and 8 Black Hands and our work that we're doing, bro, I'm gonna keep it 100, man. There has been zero ego when it comes to this, man. And I mentioned this last night on our IG, man. You and I came together, 2 brothers who from different coasts with our own following, with a lot behind us, and then me Dubs, you know, son, give us the check. It was seamless, bro, and I expect that. I'm looking until I see otherwise. I'm going to approach everyone in this space, sisters and brothers, with the same level of humility and equal partnership as it comes together. Because to the point of the show, I got my receipts, you got your receipts. There's no competition. if I stepped off tomorrow, I'd be good. But when brothers come and sisters come into this space looking for clout, bro, I mean, that's something that history has taught us does not work.
I feel it, man. I think, as we roll into like the role that philanthropy can play, I hear everything you said, bro. And you said something about DEI work. Like, this is the other thing. You have to know, if you got to know what your square is so you can stand on it. So I think a lot of companies are now hiring DEI folks as a shield, right? So like they can do whatever they need to do. Be like, but we got this person on it. We got this person, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's the same way that I learned when I started doing youth work, is that people don't really want to hear what youth and community got to say. They just want to be able to check off a box and say, well, we listening and we got this. You know what I'm saying? And if you are one of those people that got one of those DEI, like well-paid positions, first off, congratulations. I'm not mad at you. You do it. You know what I'm saying? Know that some of these people are not really trying to change, right? But now you got an inside scope. Now you actually making some bread and you getting information that you can disseminate to your people and prepare people, whether you can make change in that organization or not. You know what I'm saying? Again, figure out your cards and play them. The same way I feel about philanthropy. Listen, man, I have eaten, my dad and my parents struggled, man. And sometimes money wasn't coming from a job. It was coming from somewhere else that I may not have known where it came from or how I got there, but I ate. One of my favorite movies is Deep Cover with Larry Fishburne. And, you should watch it if you haven't. Jeff Goldblum is a beast, and Larry Fishburne is a beast in that movie. But one thing he said at the end of the movie, Larry Fishburne was giving money to his girl from when he was undercover, whatever, so she can hide it and take it and run or whatever. And she was like, this blood money. He was like, the money don't know where it came from. Check this out. If we gonna start, and Howard Fuller says this, if me and you about to have an argument over which white people's money is better to take, I'm not interested in that conversation. You feel me? It's like, look, man, what can you do for your community with that money? And if you somebody that can get it done without bread and all that stuff, great. God bless you, right? God bless you. I do not believe in a spirit of broke and doing things on the cheap if we don't have to. And I think that, I'm all about taking my reparations in blood and giving that money back where it needs to be at. You know what I'm saying? Like, we live in a complex time. So I think that the role that philanthropy should play, I think that they should be finding leaders that are actually doing the work and could use that little bit of a boost and getting out the way and letting them do what they need to do. But again, if somebody handing you money, they probably gonna want to see something in return. That's just life. That just is what it is. If I give you, if your daughter is selling cupcakes and I give you money for the cupcakes, I want my damn cupcake and I want it to taste good. That's just life. So I think the role that it should play is, one day I would love to see a black philanthropic wing that is as strong and powerful as some of these other wings that I see. And I will take money from them. I will take money listen, man, if I can help my people, and people can say whatever they want and get up on their high horse. I slept in bunk beds with 50 other families and smelled it, and it stank. You understand? I remember what that shelter smells like today. I remember at the Salvation Army watching them teach people how to clean off needles, because we lived there in the early 90s and they didn't want people to catch AIDS that were shooting up. You know what I'm saying? I don't give a damn how you feel. I will take whatever I need to and do what's right by my people. And it is what it is. So that's the role. I think you probably have a much better answer. That's slightly less hood than mine. So go ahead.
No, man. I mean, this could be its own session, bro. I mean, when it comes to, I am not only my current work, which again, a lot of it is funded by philanthropy. I'm going back to even our first episode in Julius Rosenwald and the school, the Carol Boyd School, which really birthed, the Valentine family and the next generation of Valentines and all of us who've gone on to academic success and professional success and family success. Julius Rosenwald, for those who don't know, a Jewish philanthropist who ran Sears Roebuck and met Booker T. Washington and came together to help co-create. I think the terminology is important. Co-create over 5,000 schools with African Americans, one of which was my great-grandparents in Mecklenburg County, Virginia. What I think the model for Rosenwald, I'm actually on the board. I'm the actually only descendant of a Rosenwald School founder on the board of the Rosenwald School Foundation. That's going to bring a national park 2 Rosenwald schools honoring Rosenwald, a philanthropist, but all the African American families and unsung heroes who helped bring those schools together. The motto of philanthropy that Rosenwald had was a third, a third, a third. And so he never fully funded really any project. It was saying, I'm going to bring something to the table, but I also want you all to bring 2/3 to the table. One from philanthropy, one from the community to get that buy-in and voice, but also a third from government. And in spite of the fact that a lot of these schools had the term Rosenwald on them, he as a funder was one that said, you know what, I don't want my name on it. Some of you're in Chicago, right? There is the Museum of Science and Machinery, something like that. That's actually a Julius Rosenwald funded museum that he said, do not put my name on. You got to actually kind of do some research to know that he founded that museum and said, don't put my name on it. And so I think when you have funders who, want stuff to be branded by them, that's something that, we have to have a conversation about versus is it really about your name getting put out there or about the people who we're trying to serve, but also how we work as communities that we bring something to the table as well, whatever we have. And it may not be financial with regard to Julius Rosenwald and my family. A lot of us in kind. We have skills to bring to the table. We have things that can come to the table that I think we need to talk about. When it comes to, again, philanthropy, I was going to sort of answer this even with the last question. And a lot what I'm doing at Real Men Teach is this space around teacher diversity and particularly Black male educators is one that I want to have a deeper conversation on, which is, do you want a Black male educator or do you want Charles Cole? The difference, because Charles Cole is going to bring uniqueness of Charles Cole. I'm not going to be a Black body and a gender that you can check a box on. Like, do you want a Black male educator or do you want Curtis Valentine? And when it comes to philanthropy, I think we have to, again, approach this as, do you want this or do you want you want us, our whole selves in this space? And are you willing to fund that? Because that's what, again, liberation and freedom is, even in the philanthropic spaces. Support me in my journey to where I believe our communities should go, and don't co-opt it for your own sort of branding, but one that says the community did this with your support. It may not be all financial, it could be in kind, but that's how you build people's pride and replication of this work. Not, this was built by somebody else, and so you don't give them a sort of a springboard to self-sufficiency.
Man, I think you killed that, man. I agree with you, bro. And like I said, and when you know what you stand on, that means that you know when you want to walk away. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like buying a car, man. You gotta be able to walk away. Like if you're not willing to walk away from the car deal, then you probably gonna get a lemon, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? So you just gotta know what your square is so you can stand on it. You know what I'm saying? So I know we coming up on around the close, man. This was really good, brother. I want to give you the space if you want to go ahead and give your final thoughts, man. Mimi is keeping us honest up in these streets. So good job. Can y'all clap it up for Mimi too? I need comments to thank Mimi because we cannot be doing this without her. And, and just for the record, I'm going to say this all the time. Curtis and I would love to have Mimi on. She does not want to be on. So I just want to be very clear. Why y'all got the sister in the back? If that's what she wanted. Listen. I do what she tells me to do. So
no, but she's the boss. I mean, don't get it twisted. She's the boss.
She told us to close up. She told us to close up, so we close it up right now. I don't, man. Listen, I don't want no smoke from me.
She's the boss.
What's your final thoughts, man? What you leaving with on this,
bro? Again, man, educated and dope. Again, when we came together to talk about this, we said, we want to take it back with the history of this work. But we also want to know that we've been putting in the work, and we don't talk about this. And so this episode on receipts, was our evidence. But again, everyone has their own journey, their own place in this world. And for me, again, it's all about starting something. And starting something, it's easier said than done. Don't get it wrong. Don't get it twisted. But at the same time, you can't be afraid to fail or to be judged in harsh way. The thing that what you heard from Cole and I today is, we have receipts, but we have a lot more failures. We could have a whole show just on that, which didn't work. And so this has to be a way for you to say, I can't succeed unless I start. And I can't succeed if I'm going around asking for permission or asking for people to co-sign. They don't get on the wagon, and they will ride it once they see the success. But once you do it from the heart, you do it for the community, you do it for the people, you do it with a little history. And so do your homework. Don't forget about that. But understand all that will follow. And don't chase for clout. Don't chase for, all the likes and comments, because it only takes one person to believe, whether it be to invest in you or to start supporting you. And so, yeah, man, this episode for me hit home on so many levels, talking about my work in South Africa and the individuals who really shaped my work there and shaped who I am through the Obama campaign, all the way up to where I'm doing right now. I stand on the shoulders of men and women who will never touch the mic and will never get recognition. And so I live my life trying to, live it in a way that they will be proud of me, and that the work that they started can live through the work that I'm doing and those who I touch. But for me, what's up with you, man? Just your final words as well. Good
oh, man. Well, I thought this was great, man. And I can't wait till next week. And hopefully, depending on how this turns out, I would love to do some more and do it again. I think what I'm taking away from this, what I want people to take away from this is like, just know I fail a lot, yo. I fail professionally, personally. Like, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Just get started. Like, just start writing. Don't worry about the typos. Like, just be the MacGyver, right? Like, and this is for if you younger, MacGyver was a great show. He could basically take whatever was around him and use it. But Black people have been MacGyver societally in this country since we got here. All right. Whether you look at our cuisine, our education, or whatever the case is, we have always bounced back. I'm not saying that it's right and that it's fair that we've done that or have had to do that. I'm saying that it's innately in you, though. And around this survival piece, let's do what we got to do so we can get to that thriving. I think, the other thing is, as far as my receipts, I try to document as much as I can and give as much navigation as I can. So, I just turned the book Beyond Grit Resilience into an audio book. It should be coming on Audible soon. They got it. But you can go to my website, Charles Cole III, charlescoleiii.com. Sign up there and you'll get the first chapter free. Inject and listen. And Shireen is gonna kill me. She is on my team and she is amazing. This is not how you sell books, people. Just FYI. If you really struggling and you ain't got the bread, but you want that navigation and you want the voice version of it, just hit me up. Just go. You can drop me a DM. You can email me. You can follow me on one of these things and tell me that you need it. I'll give it to you. You just got to fill out a survey afterwards, right? Like I'm blessed to be able to support my people in the way that I know how to support them. And I'll be writing more books and more stuff. I work like I work because I can be gone tomorrow, man. I've lost, like, if you look at my friend circle just from growing up from a child to where I am now, man, like more than two hands of people, you know what I'm saying, that I was close to that ain't here no more. So somebody was like, why you work like that, right? It's like, because I could be dead. You feel me? Yes. Thank you for bringing up the hoodies are definitely at the merch store. That's on charlescode.com as well. Go there, do whatever you need to do. It's all up there, man. But Curtis, I just want to thank you, man, for this amazing conversation. Mimi, you have done great. We hope that you all will continue to rock with us. Please, in the meantime, talk about this, share it, tag us. You know what I'm saying? Let us know, right? Hashtag educated and dope, right? Spell it out so we can find it. We can find you and we can thank you appropriately. We can't move without you all. You know what I'm saying? We really can't, and we really need y'all. So with that being said, man, thank you all so much. We are going to close out, and you have been listening to Cole and Valentine's Educated and Dope. This was episode 2, The Now, aka hashtag The Receipts. And share your receipts, and we'll put them out there, man. We got you. With that being said, y'all have a blessed weekend, and we gone. Peace.